Hi. Now you may be wondering, Ethan, what are you doing with your camera pointed directly up at the ceiling? These are the best conditions I could film in, please cut me some slack. So something that I've always been interested in is video game trailers. Some of my favorite videos of all time are video game trailers. The last Breath of the Wild trailer, the Smash Ultimate Everyone Is Here trailer, Anyway, so I thought, you know what would be fun is if I created a trailer of my own for a video game. The problem, obviously, being I don't have any video games that I'm currently working on that I can make a trailer for. I don't have any game dev buddies that I can just hit up and, you know, make a trailer for their game. I mean, maybe if there was someone that maybe I made a video on, and whose game I made a video on, and they wanted me to come and make a trailer for the sequel of their game, maybe I'm in their Twitter DMs, they could hit me up. A game that I thought could have a really interesting trailer is Half-Life 2, because I love that game, and the trailers that I have seen for it from like E3 back in like 2002, 3, 4, they kind of suck, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie, they're not the greatest trailers in the world, probably because they're so old, and the trailer industry has clearly gotten a lot better since then. Not to say there weren't any good trailers before, but I digress. So before I start, I'm gonna have to come up with some sort of a plan for what I can do to make an interesting trailer. What would go into it? You know, who am I catering to here? Why am I spending the next week or so of my life doing this? But those are all questions that will be answered when we come to them. So let's just get started. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is the trailer is finished. Yay! I'm so awesome. The bad news is the trailer's been finished for weeks and I still have to make the rest of the video. Now maybe you're wondering, Ethan, what is the rest of the video? Is the trailer itself not enough? And no, it's not. I need substance, I need content, I need to get the video over 10 minutes because I want to practice for when I get monetized eventually, because we all know it's gonna happen at some point. So I sat down, I wrote some stuff down, I even recorded it, but at the end of the day it just didn't really feel right. I feel like I wasn't enthusiastic enough because everybody knows I'm known for my enthusiasm. So I thought instead I would just come back to the camera, try talking to the camera. Anyway, I don't want to bore you anymore, so let's just talk about the process for a little bit. This all started when I came across this man named Derek Liu, who makes awesome video game trailers. He's also done movie trailers, but video game trailers are his main thing, and he's been doing it for over a decade, I think. He has this awesome channel where you can check out tutorials on how to make good trailers. And so I started watching all of his videos. And I don't want to say I'm an expert or anything, but that looks disgusting from this angle. So after watching his videos, I thought, well, the best way to actually get good at something is to just do it. So I got to work on the trailer, and I think it turned out pretty well. But before I show it to you, like I said, I want to talk a little bit about the process of making it. So I kind of made this list of things just in my head that I think Half-Life is really known for. There are 3 main components to this list, and the first one is innovation. Actually, before I talk about that, let me just explain what Half-Life is about for those of you that still might not know. So Half-Life is a first-person shooter developed by Valve, and it centers around Gordon Freeman, a theoretical physicist who gets caught up in this experiment that goes wrong and ends up having to save the world from aliens. So back to what I was saying, innovation. Before Half-Life, most first-person shooters looked like this. But then when Half-Life came out, it looked like this.
Morning, Mr. Freeman. Looks like you're running late. Hey, Mr. Freeman. I had a bunch of messages for you, but we had a system crash about 20 minutes ago, and I'm still trying to find my files.
Excuse me, Gordon, but I'm rather busy now.
Right on through, sir. Looks like you're in the barrel today.
My God, what are you doing?
And at the time that was revolutionary because you would never see something like that in an FPS. In fact, a lot of the FPS games that you see today, like Halo, Call of Duty, the really, really big names, would not exist if it weren't for Half-Life. You may also have heard about Half-Life Alyx, kind of a big deal this year. It was the first big AAA, big budget, huge, massive, ultra, awesome, epic VR game. So that was a thing. But this isn't a trailer about Half-Life 1 or Half-Life Alyx. This is a trailer about Half-Life 2. And what Half-Life 2 brought to the trailer was physics, and a lot of them. You may have heard of this little device they like to call the zero-point energy field manipulator. Basically what it does is pretty much weaponize any physics object that you find in the world, and you can also use it to solve puzzles and stuff. So you know I'm going to use that for the trailer. Now, the gravity gun wouldn't be possible if it weren't for the engine that Half-Life 2 ran in, which is called Source. You may have heard of this because a lot of other games run in the Source engine. The Portal games, the Stahli Parable, even Apex Legends and Titanfall run in the Source engine, albeit heavily modified versions of the Source engine. Another thing that Valve really wanted to push when Half-Life 2 came out was the facial animations of the characters, which was also made possible by the Source engine, and is also something that I want to use in the trailer. So remember when I said Half-Life 1 introduced a new kind of storytelling to first-person shooters? Well, turns out that's something that Half-Life 2 also does really well. Now, the story of Half-Life 2 is a little weird if you don't know what's going on. So, just quick to sum up, in Half-Life 1, in that whole experiment that goes wrong, you end up inviting a bunch of aliens to Earth, like I said. One of these types of aliens that invades is called the Portagons, which are actually good guys, but they're just being mind-controlled by this thing called the Neolinth. So you kill the Neolinth at the end of the first game, but it turns out he was actually running from these other aliens who are even more dangerous, and they're kind of this... It's more of like a bunch of different races of aliens, just all together in one evil alien business conglomerate, if you want to think of it that way. And they're called the Combine, and they take over Earth in about 7 hours, mind you, before Dr. Wallace Breen, Gordon's old administrator at Black Mesa, surrenders to the Combine in order to rule the world. So, why do you need to know this? Well, here's why. Half-Life 1 also does this, but Half-Life 2 to a greater extent. If you're really interested in the lore, you can find clues as to what happened in the 20-year gap between the two games. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's this dude called the G-Man, and he puts you in stasis at the end of the first game, and then you wake up 20 years later after the Earth has been taken over and you have no idea what's going on. So like I said, if you want to know what happened, the game doesn't necessarily explicitly tell you unless you want to look for it. So in Eli's lab, Eli is also another important character. I know it's getting confusing, just bear with me here. You can look at this corkboard that has a bunch of snippets of info about this thing called the 7-Hour War, which is obviously when the Combine took over. And that kind of explains a big chunk of what happened. You can also find this picture of Eli's family, and his wife and his daughter Alex, who's a very important character in the Half-Life series. You may have heard of her, I don't know, maybe, possibly. It answers a lot of the questions that you may have, but there are other questions that it raises that Valve just never answers, and you may think that's kind of weird, but part of the fun of it is the mystery. It leaves it up to your imagination, right? For instance, we don't know how the Combine took over the Earth in 7 hours. We don't know how Alex's mom died. We don't know what the G-Man's true intentions are, and we don't know who ate all the donuts.
Do you know who ate all the donuts?
Now, there's a few questions that people definitely really, really want answered. And that leads me to my final point, which is that Half-Life keeps people waiting. You may have heard, if you've been on the internet since 2007, about a little game called This. Now, if you don't know, after Half-Life 2, Valve decided to release Half-Life games in an episodic manner. So after Half-Life 2, it was Half-Life 2 Episode 1, and then after that, a year later, it was Half-Life 2 Episode 2. So after Episode 2, Valve was like, alright, let's make Episode 3, and then they didn't. And the only Half-Life game we've gotten in the last 12 years is a prequel that does push the story forward, but not by much, because it's a prequel.
Okay, real talk for a little bit. I may sound ungrateful here. I just want to make it clear that Half-Life Alyx is my game of the year of 2020, and I just think it's a little bit ridiculous that, especially knowing Valve, that the first Half-Life game in the last 12 years ends on a cliffhanger at about the same point that Half-Life 2 Episode 2 ends. So, yeah, alright, whatever.
So here's the point I'm trying to make here. When Half-Life 3 inevitably, maybe, I don't know, just for legal reasons, ever does get announced, then it'll be this huge event, and, you know, at least I'm hoping, they didn't do this with Alyx, but I'm hoping the way they do it is they drop a reveal trailer that just, you know, you don't expect it's Half-Life, and then all of a sudden they hit you, boom! This is Half-Life 3, this is the big one, this is the one you've been waiting for, you know, however many years at this point. So let's talk a little bit about the trailer again. We have to find a way to communicate all these concepts in a trailer. I talked a little bit about innovation using the gravity gun and the facial animations a lot. That's very surface level stuff. But then you have to communicate the ideas of, you know, the lore and, you know, getting excited about the world and, you know, all the little details. And then on top of that, how do you convey the fact that this series keeps people waiting? So I thought, well, this game, you know, it's 16 years old, but it's a dang good looking game for something from 2004. And that people had. So then we can and we and, you know, hopefully that's like wherever, you know, everything like, you know, we get a little bit of, we get a little bit of, we got a little bit of we get yeah, I don't want to, you know, spoil the whole thing, but so I put it all together, and it is finished, and here is what I came up with. Thank you for waiting, those of you who I told this would only take like a week or so. You know, I understand I was a little naive in the beginning. Alright, I'm done talking, get out of here.
Welcome to City 17. You have chosen, or been chosen, to relocate to one of our finest remaining urban centers.
Don't drink the water. They put something in it to make you forget. I don't even remember how I got here.
Dr. Breen. He's the administrator of this whole vile business now.
The Citadel's on full alert. I've never seen it lit up like that.
The man I saw. I'm all but certain it was
Gordon Freeman.
The Mark V hazardous environment suit has been redesigned for comfort and utility.
I'm gonna need me some privacy for this.
Today, we're finally on the verge of having a better way.
This is a red letter day.
Dr. Freeman, I presume.
Genocide. Indescribable evil.
Tell me, Dr. Freeman, if you can. You have destroyed so much. What is it exactly that you have created? Can you name even one thing?
Aim for the head. The blow you struck at Nova Prospect was taken as a signal to begin the uprising.
It's gonna be tough dodging civil protection out there in the open, but drive hard and you'll make it.
Gordon, you must get out of here!
Time, Dr. Freeman? Is it really that time again?
Hey there fellas, it's me again. Before I let you go, I just wanted to say a few things. The first is thank you for watching, especially if you watched all the way through. And secondly, if you did watch all the way through, please let me know what you did and especially did not like about this. I would love to hear it. So I haven't really seen anyone do this before, but I really enjoyed making the trailer, and I want to know if you guys specifically enjoyed me talking about the process. I actually already have some other ideas for what I could do for future videos, so I'm actually kind of anxious to see what people have to say about it. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Thanks.